The snow drifted down softly outside our modest suburban home, blanketing the entire neighborhood in a serene, shimmering layer of white. It was the kind of snow that muffled every sound, making even the distant hum of cars feel like whispers. Christmas Eve had arrived, and every house on our street seemed to glow like a small lantern in the dark winter night. Windows glistened with fairy lights. Candles flickered in soft hues of gold and laughter. Deep, unrestrained, and joyful, floated into the cold air from families gathered close inside their warm living rooms. Inside our own home, the tree stood tall in the corner, dressed in ornaments collected over decades, each one holding a fragment of our family's history. The little glass angel my mother had bought when she was alive caught the firelight and refracted it into tiny rainbows. Next to it hung the handmade paper star my younger brother David had carefully cut out in kindergarten, its edges still uneven. And there was also the glitter-covered ornament I had crafted when I was just 12, still shedding tiny sparkles after all these years. Every decoration was a small museum piece of who we were, yet this Christmas felt unlike the others. For the first time in so many years, my heart didn't ache with its usual heaviness. For as long as I could remember, the holidays had carried a bittersweet ache, like a song you love but can't listen to without tearing up. But something in the air that night felt different, as though change had already begun to weave itself quietly into the fabric of our lives, even if I couldn't name it yet. My name is Emily Johnson, and I was 28 years old that winter, working as an elementary school teacher just outside Chicago. Christmas had once been my favorite time of year, a season of music, family, and warmth. But when my mother passed away when I was 18, the holiday became a delicate ritual of trying to celebrate while tiptoeing around our grief. My dad tried his hardest to hold everything together, the meals, the traditions, the decorations. And my younger brother clung to the rituals as though keeping them alive might somehow bring her back. Still, there was always that empty chair at the table, its silence louder than any words we could speak. This year, though, David had been determined to change things. At 24, now a college student studying business, he carried a youthful optimism that was almost contagious. "Emily," he had told me just a week before Christmas, "we're not doing the sad thing this year. We're going to laugh, we're going to play games, we're going to make Mom proud." His voice had been so sure, so steady, that despite my doubts, I had agreed. On Christmas Eve, Dad, David, and I filled the kitchen with the comforting chaos of cooking together. The oven worked overtime as the smell of roasted turkey, cinnamon rolls, and apple pie drifted through the house, filling every corner with the scent of home. After dinner, a tradition my mom had started, we each opened one gift. I unwrapped a scarf from Dad, soft and warm against my palms, while David received a pair of gloves, and Dad opened a book he'd been wanting for months. Small gifts, but thoughtful, grounding us in connection. Later, we gathered in the living room, hot cocoa in hand, while the fireplace snapped and crackled. Bing Crosby's voice floated from the old stereo, wrapping us in nostalgia, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a flicker of real joy rising inside me, a bubble of warmth pressing gently against the sadness I had carried so long. That was when David nudged me, such a small movement, a quiet brotherly elbow against my arm. But it startled me from my thoughts. I had been staring at the Christmas lights on the tree, letting my mind drift, when I felt his touch. I turned to him, my brow raised slightly. "You okay?" he asked softly, his eyes reflecting both the firelight and a quiet understanding. I nodded but said nothing. Then, leaning closer so Dad wouldn't hear, David whispered, "I know you miss Mom. I do too. But look at us. We're still here. We're still a family. I need you to smile tonight, just once, the way you used to when we were kids." His words weren't dramatic. They were simple, almost shy, but something about them, the honesty, the love, broke through the wall I had built over the years. My lips curved upward into a real smile, unplanned, unforced. It felt unfamiliar at first, then achingly natural. David's face lit up in triumph, like he'd achieved some great victory just by reaching me. That moment, a nudge, a whisper, a shared look, shifted something deep inside me. I had been carrying grief like a heavy coat for so long that I'd forgotten what it was like to set it down, even for a moment. But with David sitting beside me, his eyes soft and steady, I realized I didn't have to carry it all by myself. The rest of the night unfolded like a scene from a movie we hadn't known we were living. We played board games, David cheating shamelessly and Dad pretending not to notice. We told stories about Mom. But instead of crying, we found ourselves laughing at her quirks and warmth, celebrating her spirit rather than mourning her absence. And at midnight, as snowflakes drifted past the window, we stood together holding hands, 3 people, still a family, feeling whole even with that one empty chair. That Christmas Eve became more than just a pleasant memory. It became a turning point, a doorway into a different way of living. In the weeks that followed, I noticed myself becoming lighter. At school, I found myself laughing more easily with my students, my patience expanding. After work, I joined colleagues for coffee instead of rushing home to an empty apartment. I even began writing in my journal again, a habit I'd abandoned after my mother's death. Each time I wrapped Dad's scarf around my neck, I felt the warmth of that night, a reminder of connection, of healing. Months later, David shared that he was planning to propose to his girlfriend, Sarah, and asked me to help him choose the ring. Standing beside him in the jewelry store, I felt a wave of pride. We weren't just siblings anymore. We had become allies in navigating adulthood, supporting each other, rebuilding our lives one small choice at a time. The following Christmas, our home brimmed with even more life. Sarah joined us, her presence adding new laughter and warmth. That night, when David and Sarah announced their engagement, I felt a swell of joy, knowing we were creating new traditions, new memories, new roots. 1 year later, I stood beside Sarah at their wedding. As she walked down the aisle, radiant and sure, I thought back to that quiet Christmas Eve, to the snow outside, the tree glowing softly, and David's elbow nudging mine. All it had taken was that one small gesture to begin changing everything. Now, years later, I share this story because I want people to understand something I had to learn the slow way. Healing doesn't always arrive as a grand, cinematic moment. Sometimes it's hidden in the smallest things: a smile, a word, a hand reaching out in the dark, a nudge on Christmas night. That evening taught me that love isn't about extravagant gestures or perfect scenes. It's about presence. It's about being there in the quiet moments, reminding someone they are not alone. And that, more than any wrapped gift under the tree, is the greatest present we can give each other.